Hello, and welcome to the Student Ministry Conversations podcast with your hosts, Brent Aiken, David Pruitt, and Russell Martin. This podcast is all about equipping, encouraging, and inspiring youth pastors weekly with topics that are brought to the table by youth pastors from all over the world. And now, here's your host for this week, Brent Aiken. Hey, and welcome to the podcast. If this is your first time listening to us, we want to welcome you and invite you over to our website, studentministryconversations.org, where you can find all of our previous episodes, show notes, and blog articles. Our goal is that you're inspired, encouraged, and the things that you hear on this podcast can equip you to be a better student pastor for the church that you're serving in. So today we are sitting down with Justin Whiteley. And so Justin is dude, man, you do a lot of stuff. So I'm going to let you kind of share what you're all encompassed in. But while you do that, also just tell us more about you, where you're from, what you do, family, anything else you want to share.
Yeah, definitely. Thanks, Brent, for having me on your podcast. Super excited to be here with you guys. Anything with youth, I am super passionate about. So I am the Director of Community and Resource Partnerships with the organization called Communities in the Schools of the Big Country here in Abilene. But I'm also the youth minister at the Mendon Street Church of Christ. And so I've been there since about 2012. And it's been there since about 2012. And been the youth minister there ever since. Doing great things there at the Mendon Street Church of Christ. My wife is Kira Whiteley. She's a teacher in AISD. Right now she's teaching at Cooper High School, coaches there and teaches there as well too. We have a daughter, Kennedy, at Clack, who's 13, and Kaysen at Bassetti, who is 9. And so we are super excited about serving our community any which way we can and stuff. And so anything opportunity wise when it comes to youth, we're passionate about and stuff. And so you'll hear more about that throughout our conversation today when it comes to our passion with young people.
Yeah, that's awesome. I just got to take a moment. You said you've been at this church since 2012. Now, most people...
I've been there since... Been there since November 2006. And been serving since 2008 in the youth ministry. I've been the youth minister since 2012. And so one of the things is when I have conversations with other youth ministers and churches, to hear that is very extraordinary to them.
Yeah.
And stuff. So
I would consider that in most youth ministry circles as like, you are a legend. I'm just going to go ahead and throw it out there because especially that long of a tenure in our career does not happen very often. And so for you to not only be the youth pastor since 2012, but working there or volunteering there since 2008 at the same church, man, that's amazing. So congrats on that, because that in and of itself is an achievement and something that we could probably talk about the entire episode. But we are going to kind of touch into that because we're starting something new today that we've never done on this podcast. And the idea came from you. And so for the people listening to this, we were talking about what topics Justin wanted to cover. And Justin was like, well, hey, my testimony about what and how I got into youth ministry is a pretty cool one. He's like, would you want me to share that? And I was like, yes, that'd be awesome. I'd love to hear it. So we got to talk for a little bit. And then I started thinking about this. I was like, we can totally use this as like there's tons of different youth pastors that listen to this and they all have different stories. And so why not have Justin, the legend, start us off with his testimony. And that's what we're going to do today. So we're just going to listen to Justin talk about his upbringing, how he was called into ministry, how the opportunities arose and all that. But I'm going to let you speak, man. Other than that, the floor is yours.
Yeah, definitely. One of the things I love to tell about is, I grew up in a loving home. My mom was a single parent. We lived with our grandparents. And growing up, I had 2 siblings. I had two sisters that were older. I was the youngest. My mom saved the best for last, of course. But grew up with my grandparents. And one of the key things about my grandparents was they were the core source of my spiritual growth growing up as a child. they're the ones who made sure that I was going to church every Sunday, every Wednesday, making sure that I'm getting that foundation when it comes to my relationship with God. And so I always want to honor them and what they've done in my life, and what they mean to me as a Christian, because they played such a big role. Growing up, we didn't have a lot of money, and my two sisters were out of the house really early in my life, living with their dads and stuff. And so going to church was an important part of that process. At the same time, I can remember the challenges that were happening in my life when it comes to certain things. Not having a dad in my life was a big part of that as well too. But through that process, we moved out to Abilene. I was born in Abilene. Grew up in the Dallas area for a long time. We moved out to the Abilene area, where I was able to start. I started going to Jim Ned school district. Graduated from there, and one of the key parts of my stories was out of our family unit, our main family, my sisters, my mom. I was the only one to graduate with a high school degree. So education was important. My mom always told me the importance of graduating. My sisters were very smart women. Even today, they're super smart. They just didn't finish their high school diploma during a regular season of their life and stuff. And so for me to go and graduate high school was something different in my family system. And so doing that was great. But then going to college was important as well, too. When I was working with the city of Abilene, I worked in recreation. I was a recreation coordinator for the city of Abilene at GB Daniels Recreation Center. Was able to work with youth for 17 years there. And it was at that point, actually, I want to back up just a little bit, because part of my story is also not just working anywhere, because I was really intent as a teenager to pray about what I want to do with my life. And so I remember my first job I had. My mom came to the room and said, "Justin, it's time to get a job. You're 16 now." And so what a teenager loves to hear that, right? It's time to start working and stuff. And that night, I said a prayer before going to bed. I said, "God, I don't just want any job. I've watched my mom work hard, and being rough on her body and stuff, not liking her job and everything. And so I wanted to make sure that I had a purposeful job." So I said a prayer before going to bed. I said, "God, give me a job that I'm going to love, to enjoy to do." I set my alarm, your radio clock that you used to have on your big stereos and stuff. Set that alarm. It went off in the morning, and there was a advertisement that came up that said, "Come and work for us during our summer program, working with kids for the city of Abilene summer program on their summer camps." And so I went and applied for that job. And from that point on, I have always worked with youth. Any
That's
job that I've
awesome.
had when it comes to my full-time employment and stuff has been youth focused. Again, 17 years with the city of Abilene, working in recreation. Was able to do a lot of things there when it comes to community partnerships. We started a program called the Carver Youth Council while we were there, where we were able to build relationships in the community and also let our youth lead out and do some great things and changing their community around that area. But God, during that time when I was there at GB Daniels, He sent somebody in my life. I wasn't a Christian at the time. When it comes to not going to church and stuff, and God sent a person in my life named Terrence Crisp, who became one of my supervisors there at the center, and he was able to see some things in me, and God had already been working in my heart when it comes to putting the thought of youth ministry in my mind. And Terrence kind of was put there, I think, when it comes to God sending him at the right time or the right moment. I don't believe in coincidences. God has a purpose for everything, and at that moment, God sent him in my life to put me on the direction of where He wanted me to go when it comes to youth ministry, and working with youth and stuff. And so, uh, Terrence helped teach me the gospel. I was baptized November the 6th, November the 6th, 2006, I believe, November 12th, 2006. And ever since then, my life has been focused on youth when it comes to the kingdom and stuff. And so, Terrence Chris played a big part of that. And the Ministry Church of Christ is where I'm the youth minister at. Dr. Tony Roach is my spiritual father there. And longevity wise, when it comes to, I remember you saying something about hearing someone saying being a youth minister for that duration, that long of a period of time, is unheard of. And
Yeah, especially in the same context of like one church for that long. It's really not something that is an everyday occurrence as far as what you hear. So no, definitely.
definitely, and one of the reasons why it hasn't been a problem and it's been so easy is because of the church, the members there, but also the leadership there. The leadership there is super supportive of what we do in our youth ministry. When it comes to communicating, when it comes to supporting ideas, it's one of those things that it creates a positive culture when it comes to doing youth ministry. We have a youth team that's around us, and as a team, we're able to build some things out when it comes to what we want to do with our youth in our youth ministry. And so, with all that working together, when you have a supportive leadership, when you go and visit other places and you talk to other youth ministers and what they're doing, what they've experienced, and how they've been hurt uh, by by previous leadership and stuff. And so, it makes it so much easier to say, I'm in a blessed place to be able to say, to go somewhere else, maybe it'd be a big challenge and stuff. So,
Yeah.
uh, people who love and care about what you're doing with your youth and stuff, parents, are awesome as well too. We consider ourselves a multicultural church, which plays into what we want to do when it comes to our family as well too. It represents our family. My wife is Black. Our kids love to see that multicultural surrounding around them, and the teaching there helps cultivate an opportunity for our family to feel comfortable when it comes to who they are as Christians.
Yeah.
And stuff. So, um, let me
No,
think
that's
here.
awesome. And so why he's collecting thoughts. So for the people listening to this, he said he's worked for the city of Abilene for a long time. Just so if you don't know Abilene, Texas, and don't know this area, just as of 2021, the population of Abilene is roughly 125,000 people. And so back when, I mean, obviously we are growing as a community, but that is about where we are. So when he says he's working for the city of Abilene, he's not working for a town of 10,000 people. We've been, I would say, probably close to 100,000 people for 20 years now, ish. And so with that, like it is a pretty big town, and with that came a lot of cool opportunities for him to see a lot of different environments with working with schools and continuing with what you do now. But you'll get to that in a little bit.
Yeah, definitely. One of the things I want to also share is, coming from a low income family, ACU played a big part. Abilene Christian University played a big part of my journey as well too. Growing up, ACU was never on my radar when it comes to schools because of the cost. And in my mind and in my mother's mind and stuff, it's like that's not doable. When it comes to going to ACU is never on your list. But through that relationship, like I said, with Terrence, growing that relationship, ACU had some opportunities and some doors opened for me to be able to go there on a scholarship through non-traditional as a non-traditional student. And so I was encouraged by Terrence to go and pursue youth ministry at ACU, and the doors just started opening um, where I thought before I would never see myself as an ACU student, being from the background that I came from. Uh, the doors opened, and it showed me so much more that I can do, and how God can work in our lives and opening doors that we never thought would be open. So I was able to go get my undergrad at ACU, and I thought, well, I'm done there. So I got my undergrad. I've taken care of that and stuff, and then uh, God tugged at me some more and said, "Hey, there's some more opportunities out there." And ACU came to me again and said, "Hey, we have a scholarship opportunity for you to go get your master's degree." And so I'm coming in my mindset, thinking of somebody who comes from a family system where nobody graduated high school. Just getting my college degree was awesome enough, and then here we are, have a master's opportunity. Actually, my mindset was an opportunity to be able to set a precedent in my family system, for my kids to follow as well too.
Yeah, that's
Uh,
awesome.
and so I was able to go to ACU for my master's. I graduated with my master's in Christian ministry from there, and so ACU played a huge part of that aspect. Not only did Mended play that big part as well too, but also the community around GV Daniels. I was working with kids who were looking for opportunities to go to college, and so I was actually being an example to them, as well as I like to say as an example. Hopefully, I was a good example. If they were to come on and say, "Hey, how did Justin? How is he an example to you?" My goal was to always be the same person all the time to them, but also set an example when it comes to my education as well too. Education was important, and I get to see them graduating college now. I get to see them having their own kids now and doing great things, and so I was super excited about the examples that I was able to build in their lives, hopefully, and be able to see the work that God does in their lives as well too.
Yeah.
Um,
So if I can stop you for just a second,
yep.
what would, if you could sum up your testimony in one word, what would that word be and why?
If I was to do one word, um, with me, um, after listening to people talk, um, I think my testimony would be connecting.
Connecting.
One of my strengths, I believe, is able to connect with people, especially young people, whether it's whatever background they have. Um, uh, I love people, and so it's easy for me to be able to love them in a way that we connect. I try to look for connections. I try to look for opportunities to be able to see a young person and find ways to uh, to connect with that person in their own special way. Um, Me being in a White House when it comes to my body and stuff. Many of the kids that I worked with come from different cultures and everything, and so I remember when the city of Abilene tried to hire me at first for the position over at GV Daniels. One of the things that was said was, "We don't know if you'll be a good fit over there because of it's a black community and stuff when it comes to the aspect." And they gave me an opportunity to work there, and it's been nothing but a blessing. That time that I spent there in that community, the relationships I made with different organizations in that community, um, the people I've met, has been a super blessing. Uh, but ultimately, the impact when I have with the youth in that community has been outstanding. That community, when we first started, we started the Carver Youth Council. A student came to me and said, "Justin, one of the things that I'm tired of hearing is gunshots at night, and one of the things that I don't know what to do about that." And my goal was to empower her as a young person. Um, and I told her, I said, "Are you asking me for help? What I can do?" And she said, yeah. She said, what can you do to help me out and stuff? And I said, there's very little that I can do as an adult. Um, but you, as a young person, you have a voice in your community. And she was able to work and get a group of kids together, a group of teens together, and I was there to advise them. We were supported by Interested Citizens of Abilene North, ICANN. It was a big umbrella organization that helped us out. The late Otis Dalton was a big part of that. Petty Hunter, Andrew Pins, all those great leaders in that community were a big part of helping out and supporting these young people, these youth, and making sure that they made a change in their community. There was a lot of drugs in that community. There was a lot of prostitution, and there were people that would tell these young people, "You are wasting your time. This place has been like this for a long time. You're not going to be able to make a change." And within less than a year, we had relationships with the people who sold the drugs. They would come to the center. They would buy snacks and things, and so I had conversations with these people, and our youth started putting signs in people's yards against the drugs that was going on there. And they said that they knew that their time was limited when it comes to being able to do what they were doing in the community. And so
That's cool.
all these things happening together. I remember one of the things that they did was they were listening to the senior citizens and having a conversation, and they heard one of their senior citizens say, I never got to go to my senior prom as a high schooler. And so they got together and they started providing senior proms to senior citizens in that community multiple years in a row
That's
um,
awesome.
on a zero budget. And so they
That's
were able to
awesome.
go and raise money. What this prom would cost around $5,000 to do. They're actually going out there doing presentations to organizations to be able to say, hey, they're getting skills by talking to people,
Yeah.
putting things together, organizing, planning and stuff. And they were able to do some great things for our senior citizens in that community just by coming together and giving them the opportunity. A lot of people, they don't understand too that our kids want to do things, but do we give them the opportunity? Is it the
Yeah.
adults telling them what they need to do, or is it us as leaders letting them run with it, being there to support them and guide them, but letting them ownership is a big part in any organization that you have and stuff. And so when we allow our youth to do that, to grab ownership of what they're doing, their ideas, their thoughts, their opinions, and let them lead out on those aspects, then they do some amazing things. But we have to
Yeah.
give them that opportunity. And as leaders,
That's
sometimes we
awesome.
don't. As adults, we don't want to do that. Sometimes
Yeah.
we don't want to let them lead out because sometimes we don't get the credit for that, or we don't get, or it's a challenge because it takes patience, a lot of patience with working with young people.
Yeah.
When we have our patience, when we take the time, they've done some outstanding things, and I'm so proud of what they've done um, in the past. In our youth ministry at Minda Street, this past year we focused on community service, and one of the key things I loved this past year was just serving with our young people, seeing their faces when they get to serve other people, getting our parents involved in that aspect, our church
Yeah.
involved in that aspect and stuff. And so Ian Nickerson is the minister there at the Ministry Church of Christ, and he's a big supporter of making sure that our kids are involved in the community as well too and stuff. And so uh, that aspect is very important.
Sure. So I have three more questions for you that I can think of, at least for now. First off, you've been in youth ministry for a while, so I have to ask you this question. What is the biggest change you've seen in youth ministry since you started? And what is the thing that has stayed the same since you started, that, and it can be in relation to what kids are doing now, or how we approach students, or what kids are dealing with. I mean, anything and everything. Like, it's open table as far as your answer. But what is the thing that has changed the most since you started youth ministry? and what is the thing that has stayed consistent?
Okay. I would say the thing that's the biggest difference is the platform. Uh, we are in a day where we have social media. We are in a day where our kids are connected, not to a face to face, but more of electronics and stuff like that. And so the biggest change that even in my ministry and probably yours as well too, and other youth ministers is how do we reach our kids on the platform where they're at? It's very important
Yeah,
because TikTok and all those things when it comes to making reels and videos, um, that's very important when it comes to that's where our kids are at. So how do we get there to meet them where they're at? Um,
yeah,
but to also just meet them where they're at because we're also want to direct them back to the church. And so meeting them where they're at is one thing, but how do we bring them closer to Christ through that process and stuff? So making that connection to them, I think, is the platform is the biggest change, and we have to be
okay,
adaptable when it comes
sure,
to uh, being creative in that. One of the things that one of my goals as I move forward in my ministry is to utilize our gifts of our young people. Um, they are making the reels. They are doing the things that we want to do, and so utilizing our young people to say, uh, "Hey, you go. This is part of your ministry," uh, and give them the opportunity to be able to reach people their age.
yeah,
Um, again, that ownership part plays a big part of that and stuff. And so, one of the things that I try to tell them that's so important about you as a youth in our youth ministry, when we have worship and you're looking around and you see somebody that's your age, you are more impactful to go and introduce yourself to that person compared to me going and doing that because I'm an adult. It's a little bit more strange for them to meet me compared to somebody their own age. And so I am going
yeah,
to try to empower our youth, our young people to say, hey, you go and introduce yourself and you go and make them feel comfortable and welcomed because you can impact them more than I can. And so that
yeah,
gives them ownership. It is part of their ministry. And I want them to see that at a young age because one of these days they are going to be leaders in the church. And the experience that they have now um, is going to impact how they do ministry in the future. And so
sure,
I want them to have that great experience and see the impact that they have, the opportunity that they have through their skills that they have and
okay,
stuff. And so that's the biggest change, I would say. Probably the biggest thing that's the same is I would say relationships. No matter our young people need and want relationships, whether it's those kids who are going through some challenges in life, those kids who are wanting who have both parents in the home, who have all that support, but they're wanting a certain relationship when it comes to something that they can't get at home sometimes. And so in our youth ministry aspect, kids want relationships, and they're going to find it either in the church or they're going to find it outside of the church, and that's never going to change. Um, they're looking for opportunities to find God, and the research tells us that as a church, we have to do a good job of showing what that looks like because what the kids are telling us is we're not seeing that what the Bible says being done in the church. And so, what kind of examples are we setting as leaders, as members of the church, as Christians, to say we are living this life not only inside these walls but outside of these walls as well too, because our kids are watching. They are very good observers. They look at how we talk, they look at how we walk, and they're looking for are we living out what we say is the truth when it comes to the Bible, when it comes to what we talk about, what we preach about, what we teach about. And
yeah,
so they watch those things. And so that relationship, our relationships with as youth ministers, is it consistent? And that's a scary thing as a youth minister because um, we have to understand that we play an important role in that, to them and stuff. And so they want to see, are we living what we're preaching? And so I would think that would be the best thing when it comes to, that's the thing that's consistent, the same. The relationship is still important, and we have to build those bridges to us, to our parents, to Christ, to the church, and to our community. And so when we build those bridges, then they're able to cross into those areas with confidence, especially after they graduate. Because our biggest goal is when they graduate, are they going to continue? Are they can continue to go to church? Are they can continue to build a relationship with God? And so that's the important part, is continuing that opportunity after they graduate high school.
Sure. Okay, and so my last question for you is, if you had advice to give out, or just a quick encouragement to give out to any youth pastor that's listening to this right now, what would it be?
My biggest advice is be patient. Um, be patient. That's I think one of my biggest strengths, is taking the time to be able to pray, taking the time to understand, and it's very easy to react to what's going on to around us, and it's okay to reach out and ask for help. One of my biggest challenges is in youth ministry is I try to make sure that I do it myself. But what that breeds in the youth ministry and myself is the opportunity for burnout to happen. And so I've been doing it for a long time. And there are moments where you can feel that burnout coming around. But when I step back and I look at why I feel this way, it's okay to ask the question, why? And I look and I ask this question, why is this happening? Most of the time it's because of me not doing what I need to do when it comes to allowing people to be a part of what we're doing, and
Yeah.
ask for help. But also, a big part is, you said one thing, but I think this is a huge thing as
Hey,
well
you're
too.
good. You're good, man.
This is a huge part is balance, when it comes to your family. That could be a whole session right there as well too.
It might
Um,
be a session that I have coming up with someone else pretty quick. So,
okay.
yeah. But
I'll
no, great. But
I'll try not to talk too much about it then, so you can have some
no,
things.
you're good. You're good.
But balance is a key thing. My kids growing up, it is important for them to spend time together as a family, and so I got creative in making sure that, um, when we go to a football game, a band concert, to wherever those aspects are, it's not just going to see one of our youth go and do those things, but I also let them know it's an opportunity for you guys to spend time with dad. Hey, I want to take you to this game. Telling my son or telling my daughter, let's go do this and stuff. And so, being creative in a way where your kids feel like, um, they're a part of what you're doing, because ultimately they are. Your
Yeah.
wife is a part of that as well too. And so making sure, and I'm not perfect at that. I'm a very busy person, and one of my wife's uh, biggest concerns is we're a busy family. And so, making sure that I listen to her when I hear that, and making sure I take time for family, because one of my biggest fears that I don't want to do is I don't want to create resentment when it comes to ministry in my family. And
Yeah.
there's a lot of people that I see in that are youth ministers that they've experienced that, and it became a big challenge, in their marriage and stuff, and their families and stuff. So, I'm not perfect in that. It's an area that I'm trying to grow in all the time, but uh, it's a work in progress, and it's always going to be a work in progress because things happen, and uh, making sure that you communicate effectively with your family is very important to make sure that everybody's on the same page. But it's okay to say no, to some things, to make sure that you are spending that time with family as well too.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. And I definitely a lot of wisdom and a lot of cool stories in this as well. And man, thank you, Justin, for coming on. Thank you for being a part of the show. And I definitely think that this might be like I was telling you before this, I think this might be a new mini series that we try to do between some of our hosts, where we pick a few youth pastors and just interview them, talking about their testimony and talking about what they've done, how they got into ministry and all that, because I think there's a lot of power in understanding a few things. And one of the main important ones is that we're not alone in this. Even though our stories might have some unique details, odds are there's someone else that has a lot of things in common with your testimony. There's going to be people that have things in common with my testimony. And the thing is we are all in this together. We are all here to help each other. We're all here to grow one another. And that is our goal with this. And it's obviously your goal with what you do as well. So thank you for your time in youth ministry. Thank you for the many different ways that you have volunteered and served in ministry and through working with youth over the many years that you've done this. And man, what a legend. I've been looking forward to having you on the show for a while. Super excited to get this one. But if you're listening to this, that is all that we have for the show. If you're a frequent listener of our podcast, all that we ask you do is help us get it out to the greater student ministry audience. Share our podcast with your youth pastor friends on social media, or tag a specific episode that really stood out to you. Either way, be sure to tag us in the post on your favorite platform using @TalkStudentMen. Finally, if you'd like to be like Justin and be a guest on the show in the future, you can reach out to us on social media or send us an email, podcast@studentministryconversations.org, and we would love to set up a time that you can come on the show with us. But as I've said, Justin, fantastic, man. I am privileged and honored to know you. Look forward to getting to know you even more over the years as we do work in the same town. But this has been such an awesome introduction to a fantastic, maybe new series that we're going to do. And I can't wait for the listeners to get to hear this one. So for all that are listening, we hope that you have a great week, and we will see you next time.
Thank you again, Brent.